Book review on A Quiet Street by Seraphina Nova Glass author. Seraphina Nova Glass genre, psychological thriller, domestic suspense. Seraphina Nova Glass's On Quiet Street is taut, emotionally complex, and deftly constructed domestic thriller that explores the veneer of suburban perfection and the dark truths that often hide behind closed doors. Set in the seemingly idyllic coastal neighborhood of Brighton Hills, the novel dissects the lives of three different women, Paige, Cora, and Georgia, each grappling with trauma, loss, and the desperate need for justice, safety, or escape. The novel succeeds not only as gripping mystery but also as poignant exploration of female empowerment and solidarity. Plot summary: Brighton Hills is the kind of affluent coastal neighborhood where everything looks picture perfect. Manicured lawns, stylish homes, and sense of suburban tranquility. But behind its quiet charm, something far more sinister is festering. And On Quiet Street, Seraphina Nova Glass spins taut psychological thriller that explores the secrets, lies, and fractured lives of three women whose paths intersect in unsettling ways. Paige is grieving, so consumed by the death of her teenage son Caleb, who was killed in hit-and-run accident a year earlier. Her grief has hardened into obsession, especially when she realizes the investigation has gone cold. Refusing to let go, Paige begins to dig into the lives of her neighbors, convinced someone in their tight-knit community knows more than they're saying. Her relentless pursuit of the truth makes her both feared and dismissed as unhinged. But Paige doesn't care, determined to uncover what really happened to her son. Cora, Paige's closest friend and confidante, appears to have the perfect life. She's wealthy, elegant, and seems to effortlessly juggle motherhood and marriage. But all is not as it seems. Cora is trapped in controlling, emotionally abusive marriage to her husband, Finn, who uses subtle manipulation to gaslight her into submission. She's desperate to leave, but terrified of the consequences. Not just for her, but for their young son, when Paige becomes suspicious. Finn's behavior, she encourages Cora to fight back. Cora's journey from passive victim to woman reclaiming her power becomes one of the emotional anchors of the novel. Enter Georgia, the mysterious new neighbor who rents house on the block and keeps to herself. She's beautiful, enigmatic, and clearly hiding something. Her odd behavior and reclusive lifestyle draw Paige's attention, and what begins as curiosity soon morphs into surveillance. Paige is certain Georgia is hiding dark secret, possibly even related to Caleb's death, but when Paige confronts her, she learns Georgia's truth is far more harrowing than she imagined. Georgia is on the run, hiding from a violent past and trying to protect her daughter from the man who once terrorized them. She's not threat. She's terrified. Her story forces Paige and Cora to reassess their assumptions and unites the women in fragile alliance built on mutual distrust, shared pain, and growing need for justice. As the three women band together, their lives begin to spiral toward dramatic and violent confrontation. Secrets on betrayals come to light, and the polished veneer of Brighton Hills is shattered. Paige gets closer to the truth about her son's death, and what she uncovers is both shocking and tragic. Meanwhile, Cora makes a desperate move to free herself from Finn's grip, and Georgia faces the danger she's been running from. In the end, On a Quiet Street is a story about women who are underestimated and overlooked until they're not. It's about reclaiming power in the face of loss, fear, and abuse, with shifting perspectives and an undercurrent of suspense. Seraphina Nova Glass crafts compelling narrative that asks how well we really know our neighbors and what we're willing to risk to protect those we love. Characterization: one of the strongest aspects of On Quiet Street is development of its central characters. Glass crafts each woman with nuance and psychological depth, creating distinct voices that carry emotional weight and lend the narrative realism and urgency. Paige is the emotional engine of the story. Her grief is raw and unfiltered, but instead of making her fragile, Glass depicts her as relentless, bordering on obsessive. Paige is unapologetically driven, and while some characters and readers might find her, she's undeniably compelling. Her grief has eroded her patience for social niceties and polite pretense, leaving behind a woman who refuses to stop searching for answers. Through Paige, Glass explores how grief can transform into purpose, and how single-mindedness can both empower and isolate. Cora represents the hidden pain behind the perfect image. Her arc is perhaps the most emotionally satisfying as she transitions from passive victim to active agent in her own life. At first glance, cliché, the privileged housewife with perfect home and handsome husband, but Glass peels back the layers to reveal the trauma of emotional abuse, the fear of losing her child, and the paralysis that can come with manipulation. Her journey is one of reclaiming power, and it's handled with sensitivity and strength. Georgia is the wild card, the unpredictable new neighbor whose backstory provides much of the novel's mystery and tension. She arrives in Brighton Hills with secrets and trauma of her own, primarily her attempts to escape violent past. Her character deepens the novel's exploration of domestic abuse, adding an extra layer of danger and vulnerability. Georgia's protectiveness over her daughter and her resilience make her more than a plot device. A fully fleshed out survivor. Narrative structure and pacing. The novel is told through alternating third-person perspectives, which allows the reader to dive into the minds of Paige, Cora, and Georgia. This narrative structure is highly effective as it builds suspense and offers multiple angles on unfolding events. Each perspective reveals clues and emotional layers, gradually tightening the web of secrets and lies that bind these women together. Glass's pacing is deliberate but absorbing. The story opens with Paige's compulsive spying and quickly establishes a sense of unease. The tension escalates steadily, with each woman's storyline ratcheting up the stakes until their lives intersect violently and irrevocably. The author uses short chapters and cliffhanger chapter endings to keep the narrative taut, and readers will likely find themselves racing through the book. Themes 1. Grief and loss at its core. Street is about how people process trauma, particularly women. Paige's grief is the most overt example, but each woman is dealing with her own form of loss. Cora has lost autonomy and self-worth. Georgia has lost safety and identity. The novel explores how these losses can be transformed into strength and connection. 2. Domestic abuse and gaslighting. Glass does not shy away from the insidious nature of emotional abuse. Finn, Cora's husband, never physically assaults her, yet his manipulation, control, and gaslighting are every bit as damaging. The novel offers nuanced portrayal of abuse that goes beyond bruises and broken bones, showing how emotional control can be equally debilitating. George's backstory introduces physical violence and the challenges of escape, providing contrast and complement to Cora's experience. 3. Female solidarity and empowerment. One of the most satisfying elements of the novel is the way these three women, initially wary of each other, eventually form bond rooted in shared pain and mutual recognition. Their alliance becomes source of empowerment. While the book isn't fairy tale where everything is neatly resolved, it celebrates the strength of women who fight back, support one another, break free from the roles society and men have forced upon them. Suspense and psychological tension. Glass is particularly adept at maintaining psychological tension. She seeds the novel with small mysteries. George's true identity, the nature of Finn's control over Cora, the real circumstances of Caleb's death that slowly unravel, keeping the reader engaged. Just when you think you understand what's going on, the story shifts, revealing another layer of deception or hidden motivation. The suspense is heightened by the setting. Brighton Hills is itself character, representing the illusion of safety and the hidden danger within. Its clean streets and curated appearances become eerie as the novel progresses, underscoring the theme that darkness often resides in plain sight. Writing style. Glass's prose is clean, sharp, and emotionally resonant. She doesn't rely on flowery language or purple prose to generate emotion. Instead, her power lies in clear, focused writing that drills into her characters' inner lives. Dialogue is particularly well handled. Natural, taut, and often laced with subtext, she balances plot and emotion with precision, allowing the novel to function both as suspense thriller and character study. Criticisms. While novel succeeds on many fronts, few aspects may divide readers. Coincidence versus plausibility. The convergence of the women's storylines, while satisfying, may feel slightly contrived to some readers. Brighton Hills starts to feel less like real neighborhood and more like pressure cooker, conveniently containing every possible form of domestic trauma. Supporting characters. While the three main women are richly drawn, secondary characters are less developed. For instance, Finn is chillingly effective as a manipulator, but he can veer toward one-dimensional villainy at times. Similarly, the men in the novel generally fall into two camps, abusive or absent, which may feel reductive. Predictability of twists. Some seasoned thriller readers may see certain twists coming, particularly surrounding George's backstory. The eventual revelation about Caleb's death. However, Glass compensates by investing in character over shock value. Final thoughts on Quiet Street is gripping, emotionally intelligent thriller that offers far more than your standard domestic suspense, through its intricate characters and themes of grief, abuse, and female empowerment. Seraphina Nova Glass delivers a story that is both page-turning and thought-provoking. The novel serves as a chilling reminder that silence is often the loudest scream, and that sometimes the most dangerous things happen in the safest places. Glass shines in her ability to make readers care deeply about her characters, even as she places them in morally murky or emotionally difficult situations. Her exploration of abuse, both emotional, physical, is compassionate and unflinching. Most importantly, the novel never loses sight of hope. Despite the darkness, On Quiet Street is ultimately a story about resilience, solidarity, and the fierce, often quiet ways women fight for themselves and each other. Highly recommended for readers who enjoy domestic thrillers with emotional depth, character-driven suspense, and feminist edge.